Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I would like to greet all of you in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. And we want to thank you for tuning in to My Walk with Jesus as a Muslim. And we have student minister Donell Muhammad, who is the host of the program. He will be joining us shortly. He has some technical issues, and I see that, so we're going to bring him on here in a few. But today, we are blessed to have student minister Willie Muhammad, who will talk to us about a very important subject. One I think that, we can all use because when it comes down to conflict resolution, we got so many issues that need to be resolved within in our community and in truth within ourselves. So I'm going to bring on our brother student minister Willie Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam, my brother, and thank you all for having me as extended the invitation for me to be a guest on your show. I am greatly humbled and honored for the opportunity.
And we are absolutely honored, brother, to have you on to talk about this very vital topic, conflict resolution. But before we get into conflict resolution, please let the audience know a little bit about yourself, where you come from, your upbringing, and also about some of the books that you've authored.
Yes, sir. Uh, I'm a New Orleans native, born in here in the city of New Orleans, also known as the Crescent City. I am the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 46, and I was officially made the student minister by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I believe it was in 2003, right? So since that moment, since that time, I've been working to try to understand this post and understand how to be a more effective servant, because that's when I see the term minister, that's what I look at it as it being a servant. As it relates to books, I have been the author by Allah's grace and permission and help and blessing, the author of numerous books. One of my best-selling books is titled Understanding Master Farah Muhammad. And I think one of the reasons why it's one of my best-selling books is that it presents information about Master Farah Muhammad in a way that it is easily digestible.
Mm.
I'm an educator, so I've spent decades having to find ways to take large historical events like World War One and World War Two and put it in a way where young people a lot of them who don't like history and they feel like it's boring, where they're able to get the who, what, when, and why. So when I teach and when I write books like that, I try to do the same. I have several relationships books. My last couple of books have been geared toward children. There's a coloring book, ABC tracing book, and there's a book that came as a result of worksheets that I put together to teach my daughters about the teachings. And if people want to order the books, they can go to Amazon.com and just type in books by Willie Muhammad.
All right. All right. Let me bring myself back on here. And so that's powerful right there. And so are the other books on Amazon as well?
All of them. And I did a book. Now, I really wish more people would get this book.
Yeah.
We often complain about, and I understand the complaint is justifiable, about how people tried to write the Mosam Elijah Muhammad out of history. So I wrote a book titled "How Could They Love the Fruit but hate the tree?" And it's making an argument to show the Mosam Elijah Muhammad's impact and document it on the Black Panther Party, on Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, in hip hop, and even as it relates to this movement that is now taking place amongst Black America to start eating healthy. You'll be amazed at the scholarship that is out there, that people are crediting the Nation of Islam with being the first that added a health platform to our efforts to better our community.
So before we just gloss over what you're just saying, because it's so powerful, right? Let us get into that. Writing the most honorable Elijah Muhammad out of history. I mean, that is something that I think that we should really, really, as you're saying, we should really, really look at that and try to understand why. Help us to understand the real reason why this system is trying to erase or write the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad out of history, or at least to where our young people can't connect with the life-giving teachings?
Very good question. I think a simple answer to that would be that it's it's a part of that battle in the battle of Armageddon, where Satan wants to shut out the light of God, right? And remember that J. Edgar Hoover, he was talking about preventing the rise of a black Messiah.
Right.
So that's one of the things, is ultimately is a way, if they are successful in writing out the history of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, think about it, then that means they will be successful also in solacing and preventing people to know that this man is the person that lets us know that those scriptures in the Bible about God coming have been fulfilled.
Mm.
So that's one of the things as well. And also the Most High Elijah Muhammad's teaching and position, and it cuts at the core of what they want to make us believe about the civil rights movement, like our open enemies have actually accepted us. But when you see the impact, like, you can't study the accomplishments of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and then at some point of studying and not ask the question, well, who taught him?
Right.
And if the more people who ask that question, who taught him, and they get the answer, what does that do for the religious world?
Mm-hmm.
What does that
Yeah.
do for all of these people when they know that, dang, God has come? And what does that do for the enemy?
And brother, when you really ask that question, who taught him, right? Because we know that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad went no further than the third grade. Is that
Third
correct?
grade. That's right.
So think about that. So here's a man who only went to the third grade, yet he produced Malcolm,
Malcolm.
the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Muhammad Ali. Not only that, but he did international trade and commerce.
Yes.
Not only that, but he put clothes on our women and suits on our men who were just coming out of the prison system, or coming out of a life of ill repute, right? So talk a little bit about that. I
Yeah.
mean, talk
And
about,
And in
yeah,
addition to that, in the book, it documents from words of Dr. Sebi in the interview with our brother Dr. Keeley, who had a talk with Dr. Sebi while on the plane. Dr. Sebi said that it was the Most High Elijah Muhammad who first began to start pointing his mind in a direction of what we eat as it relates to how it affects our health, right?
right,
Even the sister who Dick Gregory credits as helping him to begin to start practicing vegetarianism, I found research that even she was impacted by the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, how to eat to live. Think about hip hop. Some of the
right,
greatest hip hop artists that here have been directly or indirectly affected by the Most High Elijah Muhammad's teachings. Rakim is not called the GOAT, he's called the God MC. And he's one that's been affected by a student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm X was in prison. They call Malcolm X Satan. People
right,
are looking, people are looking for examples of devils being cast out of people. But if this man was called Satan prior to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then after the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he no longer was called Satan, somebody had the devil cast out of him. The Black Panther Party.
Yahweh
It's
ben Yahweh.
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
I
It's
mean,
on and on of people
right.
who the Most High Elijah Muhammad have impacted.
Before we go on, tell the people about this book one more time. And I just want to
Yeah,
stay on this subject just a
yeah,
little
I
bit more.
appreciate it. The book is titled "How Could They Love the Fruit but Hate the Tree," and it's talking about this effort where people want to write the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad out of history, and now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's work is making it even more impossible for them to do it. And the
Right,
Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in an article that I quote in the book, he warns those black or white who want to do that of the consequence that will come to them for doing it. So the book can be purchased on Amazon, and you type in Willie Muhammad books, you'll see it, and it's titled "How Could They Love the Fruit but Hate the Tree?"
And so let's get a little bit more into that, and then we'll go. And I see the ministers coming on, so let's go a little bit more into that, if you would, and talk about, once again, a third grade education. But when you talk about how to eat to live, not just book one, book one and book two, which are
Mm-hmm.
actually today, you could say that they are a survival guide, not just a dietary practice. It's a survival guide today. Talk about the science that's written in those books and how, as you talked about, Dr. Sabi and others
Yeah, it's
get their
interesting
platforms
now.
from.
We were mocked and called crazy and said that we were practicing unsafe dietary practices by eating one meal a day, right? But now you can go on YouTube and type in OMAD. They call it OMAD, which means one meal a day. And
Mm,
it's bodybuilders, nutritionists, other people who are giving testimonies about how them eating one meal a day, how it has helped their lives. But the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad was teaching this in the early 1900s, right?
right.
So we're seeing that daily. We can find articles on the news where the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad was telling us from what Master Prophet Muhammad taught him, how food impacts our mood. Now there are doctors who have lists of foods. If you want to think clearly, don't eat this. And one of the foods that they say to stay away from because it can affect our ability, our cognitive ability, is pork.
Mm,
Which in our problem book we were told about how pork sounds the mental power of the human being.
Yes,
So
sir.
now we're having people are coming out and researching, believers in the Nation of Islam, and now writing books that are showing what the most Elijah Muhammad taught is indeed true.
mm-hmm. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Brother Student Minister, we were talking to Brother Willie about his phenomenal book. And Brother Willie, give him the name one more time.
The name of the book is titled How Could They Love the Fruit But Hate the Tree?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how could they
Yes, sir.
love the fruit but hate the tree? How they always want to lift up Malcolm, how they always want to lift up Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali, actually, a quote in the book where he said the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad was his Jesus, his savior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the impact of the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad on the Black Panther Party. And one of the points I make out in the book is, how serious would you take somebody who says that they're an expert in the history of the National Basketball Association, and then they write the history out of it and they don't mention Michael Jordan?
Mm. Right.
Like, man, how could you miss him?
Absolutely.
Right.
And then,
Right.
Student Minister, go right ahead. I'm on this line of questions. I mean, the brother is really
No,
smart. A good
brother,
conversation.
you're on the right track. I got blocked out. It just blew me out. And then when I went to get back on, it kept saying this is not supported on Safari. I went to Chrome, tried to come back, finally sent me back to Safari, and then I had to go in through another way and actually download the StreamYard app, and then it let me get back on.
Yes, sir.
Go figure. Go figure. Go figure.
Sir.
All
So
this
we were-
modern science. I got the M4 chip and all these different computers. But still, when Satan get involved, they knew Brother Willie was coming on and said, "Uh-oh, we can't let that man speak."
Right. But you know
Crazy.
what? And that's given our open enemy a little bit of credit, but in truth, all of his technology is a failure. It's a
Right.
failure. All of it is a failure. None of it is absolute. None of it you can really, count on.
Right. Right.
So yeah, it is what it is.
So, Brother Willie,
Mhm.
brother mentioned your book, and I got to make sure I get online now and get it. But again, you may have already covered it. I don't know. But again, in terms of this initiative that comes under the phraseology, if you will, for lack of a better word, conflict resolution, squash the beef before the grief. You have been involved in a number of conflict resolutions, literally, not only in your city of New Orleans, but I believe you've been around the country. And I think you and Captain Dennis have something coming up in Lansing, I believe, this Tuesday.
Flint, Michigan.
In Flint. What is it about this initiative that all of us were given, but Allah inspired you to take it personal and actually work out a methodology like our leader and teacher did? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him many things to do, but he did not necessarily sit down and give him a hand how to do booklet. I want you to build a bridge with the Islamic world. Well, he didn't tell him, here's how you do it. But the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has done it. All of us got the initiative. But you worked out a methodology that was practical, and the principles of it are best practices that any of us can use around the country. How did Allah bless you to come up with that practical sort of step by step, for lack of a better word, to put this into action and actually make it something that anybody could use around the country or around the world?
Yes, sir. Well, how it started, as you mentioned, our brother Captain Dennis Muhammad, Captain Emeritus, you know, he began the Peacekeepers. His first chapter of the Peacekeepers started in the city of New Orleans in 2009. And for 2 years, we will spend 1 hour on a Saturday in the community, because as the theme is, 1 hour of doing something is better than 24 hours of doing nothing. And 2 years later, after leaving Savior's Day and coming home for a radio interview, as I was leaving the interview, a brother in our city called and made the suggestion. He said, what do you all think about starting a beef hotline? And I just, it resonated with me. So I said, I'm with it. Let's sit down, plan it, and what we need to do. And I'm thankful to Almighty God Allah that we didn't fall into paralysis by analysis. You know, we sat down and realized what we needed. We needed a telephone number, not a 1-800 number that people can call. We also began to see we needed a group of brothers that would be interested. And then we began to start working. And so we were working and working and working, and Allah was blessing us. People will find out and trust our ability and helping us. They will allow us to help them. And leading up to the 10-10-15 Justice of Else March, Brother Abdul Qiyam gave me a call because he presented to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan PowerPoint that we did. We did a conference call explaining the methodology to people. And the minister sent word back from him to tell me that he wanted that model for the Peacekeepers to be the model for the 10,000 Fearless. And from that point, we began to start just engaging in the process of training people. Even with what we've done, we've been over to 25 cities. And the minister is greatly interested in knowing who is serious about having this initiative in their cities. I send them reports to every city that I go to and follow-ups about what is happening. So we begin to start working, but there's still more work to do. I say right now, all we're doing is planting the seeds, right? But as I thought about the question that you asked me, I began to start realizing when we will go to different cities, people will ask me, where do we go to get trained? What school do we attend? And all I could think about is what we learned in FOI class about how to handle disagreements between believers or between brothers. And I thought about the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which I've witnessed over the years, him resolving conflicts between gangs, him resolving conflicts between various hip hop artists. So I began to start realizing that throughout my up and coming in the ranks, observing the minister doing these things, him teaching on how to resolve conflict, the seeds were planted in. And then what Captain Dennis was doing and other stuff was just water to help them germinate. You say, well, what made me attached to it? You know, one of the things I strive to be is to be more of a doer. I try to do my best to be more of a doer than just an actual talker, right? And I think that people can argue about different theologies and different positions, but only a fool will argue about outcome and results, right? So right. I saw it as, if we didn't move out on this, we give the enemy and we give our critics an opening to take a shot at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And I didn't want that to be. I don't want to be a part of the history like during the time of Prophet Muhammad, when he told the archers to stay on the mountain and they left the mountain and the people began to start taking shots and the prophet was injured. You know, so I see sometimes that we're not carrying out. I got a story I need to share with you from the minister. Can I share that?
Please.
I see that if we don't carry out and execute what he says we give the enemy and our critics an opening. And so Jesus asks in the scripture in the Holy Quran, who are my helpers? Why did he ask that? So once we were in the hotel room, and the last time the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was in Houston, and Brother Robert Muhammad, who's the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 64 in Austin, they just received their mosque number. So we're at the table, the minister is sitting at the head, and Brother Robert from Austin is sitting at the other head, and the minister was looking at the TV, but he couldn't help it. If he see the TV, he sees Brother Robert. So he started asking Brother Robert, he said, Brother Robert, tell me about yourself. So Brother Robert started talking about his family, how Brother Robert at that time, his children were like maybe 15, and they were sophomores in college. And the minister was blown away. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was like, wait a minute. He said, how could they be juniors or sophomores in college? He said, well, they homeschooled. And Brother Robert said for a small portion of their early life, they were homeschooled. But he and his wife were fortunate enough to have positions in this independent charter school in Austin, where they were able to control the environment that their children were in, and in addition that other children were in. His children, one of his sons was on a day out on a panel on a stage with Barack Obama. So as he kept listening to Brother Robert, and Brother Robert told him this is the point. He said, my wife also took to heart what you taught about in the How to Give Birth to God series. She really took those principles and really began to start implementing them. So now she actually has a book about it, right? And the minister sat back and he listened, and he said this. He said, Allah has always given me good ideas that I share with you all. He said, however, the problem is they only stay in idea form because most of you all don't take them and do anything with them.
Wow.
And I don't want to be a part of those who do that.
Wow. Wow. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
All praises to Allah.
Yes, sir. Well, brother, thank you for that. Let me ask you this, Brother Stephen. Are there anyone online outside of us that would like to ask our brother a question? Because I brought him on for a specific purpose and specific reason. I want all of us to speak to the most critical point. He's made many beautiful points, but the one that has touched me to my soul is the point he just made.
Right.
The minister receives divine revelation, and then he shares that with us. And then we get excited for a moment, maybe even get out there for a couple of weeks or maybe even months and act like we're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Like the time when he started going door to door in the communities in Chicago, and there were those who said, "Oh, brother minister, please don't put your life in jeopardy," and blah blah blah. Well, his response had to be even with his help that, well, if you ain't gonna get up out there and do it,
somebody got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're somewhere in your office somewhere playing on a computer. He needs us in the streets where the people are fulfilling the first mission, which is what? To deliver now the 50 to 60 million or more dead to the Lamb of God. And you cannot do that without program. And so what Brother Willie has successfully done is he said, he took the initiative that I'm going to do something with that idea. And because he was sincere about it and strove to do something about it, Allah blessed him to actually find the methodology. One last point, and then we open up the floor.
All right.
We're at the dinner table with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the National House. His daughter asked the question, what is it about the methodology, Minister Farrakhan, that you used in New York? What was your strategy?
I was there.
Your plan?
I remember that.
And his answer was, I had no plan. I had no strategy. I had no book of methodology. It was my love for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the truth, black people, God, That's what guided me.
Right.
And what Brother Willie just said, I thought I was going to hear about somewhere he went in the back room, got on his prayer rug, did 9,900 rakahs, got up from a salah, jumped in the bathtub full of ice.
Right.
And then all of a sudden an idea popped in his mind. He wrote it all down. And then bam, there was the program for Squash the Beef.
Yes, sir.
But all of it came up out of a simple desire. I don't want to be like those. So he went to work.
Yes,
And
sir.
because he went to work, then Allah began to give him the necessary practical steps to make an idea from God's man into a reality.
Yes, sir.
I'm done.
All right. That's beautiful, because you're absolutely right. Before I go on into some speech, I'm going to bring on, we do have, because, you know, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to say this, is that what I've recognized that in life is that if you just take that first step, if you just move forward, God brings into your reality that which will help you to accomplish your goal. But you got to take that step of that
On
step
faith,
of
on
faith.
faith, on faith.
Okay. With that, I'm going to bring on our sister Aisha. She has a question for you.
Thank you, dear brother. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam,
Walaikum
sis.
salam.
No, my question is more in the reins of when you're dealing with our people who can be very difficult at times to deal with, or different conflicts that can be very, what's the word I want, rich with emotion. How do you keep your emotions from affecting how you kind of resolve the issue or help the individuals involved resolve the issues without coming across as if you're choosing a side, even though there may be a very clear black and white, if you will. But a lot of times when people are in the midst of a dispute, obviously they don't have the same perception or the same perspective of the problem. And so everyone wants to feel that their emotion or how they feel about a given situation is valid. So how do you keep from invalidating, I guess is the question, their emotions or how they are feeling in taking a situation, and keeping your own self removed from it enough to help them reach that resolution, if that makes sense?
Great
That's
question.
my baby girls, girl. Go ahead.
You know, so one of the things is, and we tell all of our mediators to understand to do more listening than talking. That's one. And with those who want to be mediators, we let them know that you have to be objective. You have to be objective. You have to be objective, and then begin to start hearing the facts, right? So by the time we talk to party A separate and party B separate, and by the time we begin to bring them to the table, we've seen both sides of the story. We've heard both sides of the story, and we can kind of see where the conflict originated from, right? So one, to be objective. For two, keep in mind, what is our overall goal? Our overall goal is to resolve the actual conflict. Now, we letting our mediators know, and in the training we talk about this, that when you're in the midst of doing a mediation, tempers are going to flare. Sometimes people are going to get heated, but that's a natural process of getting to the goal or resolving a conflict. Because sometimes when people begin to start getting upset, that's when the truth begins to start coming out. But what we do is we tell people, like, listen, I know you're frustrated. You know, I know you're this, I know you're that, but let's stick through the process. Sometimes also what helps with that is getting our people to practice something that we're not used to practicing, which is to listen to someone else without without interrupting them, and letting them know you will have your opportunity to actually to respond, right? And what we found, that most people just want to be heard. Most people just want to know, understand, as you said, that their position is not invalidated. So with our mediators, we let them know, don't invalidate anybody's position. Like if somebody feels like they were done an injustice, and we get the facts, and we realize that this person is kind of over exaggerating, we don't tell them that, yo, you over exaggerating. We don't invalidate their feelings. That's the way that they feel. We had a mediation one time where a sister, we check at all of the mediations. She came to the mediation with two big bodyguards. When I say big bodyguards, like Arnold Schwarzenegger muscle building brothers. And we let her know, sister, we will never invite you to anything where you can be at home and harm. But she felt that a threat was made on her life, that she felt that she needed that. So we don't invalidate people. We listen, and what we train our mediators to do, to listen for the gaps in the in the perspectives, or where somebody feels that they were wrong. And then if somebody is wrong, we do it in a way, practicing a principle that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned in the study guides, walking in another man's moccasins. So if we going in, we got all of this information, we already know that person A is really the violator of the principle. They did something that was very disrespectful. So after we allow both of them to talk, as a mediator, we might say, person A, imagine if you were here and somebody did this, and this to you. The same thing that they did to this person, but we might change some of the circumstances. How would you react? Man, I would do this. I would feel upset. They shouldn't have done that. I say, well, brother or sister, you know, that's what you did to this person. And sometimes you see the light goes off, because we live in a world, family, and the book of Timothy talks about this. In the last days will be perilous times. People will be lovers of themselves. It talks about people being selfish. And we live in a world now where people are thinking they're taking lesser and lesser time to look at something from somebody else's perspective. Right. All they know is about how this person hurt me, but they never think about their role in this particular thing.
Right.
And the last part on this, we always talk about, and to a degree it has become kind of like a cliche, rise above emotion into the thanking of God, rising above emotion. So as our mediators, we ask our mediators to do self-examination on themselves, to know their own triggers. Because how can you rise above emotion if you don't even know what your own trigger is?
Beautiful, brother. Sister, did you have any follow-up that you would like to ask?
She's on mute.
No, my brother answered it beautifully.
Yes, he did. Thank you, sister. We got a question from the chat, and I'll go ahead and put it up. It says, Assalamu alaikum, good brother. Who has failed our youth? How do older men approach the youth to open up to the line of communication to start to guide them in a direction of success?
Well, who has failed our youth? You know, society as a whole has failed our youth.
Right.
But also some of our youth are failing themselves as well. You see what I'm saying? And that's a discussion that we have to be able to talk about as well. But how do we begin to start approaching them? One of the things is that we can't come off, as we heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say, we can't come off in a spirit of judging, right?
Right.
Like their first interaction with us, we're condemning them, telling them about what they shouldn't be doing. First, go there trying to be a friend. Go there first trying to hear them out before we make an assessment. And sometimes some of us talk to our young people as if we had never been young before.
Right.
And we haven't made mistakes. So sometimes it pushes them off when we come before them acting as if we are holier than thou and we've never made a mistake, right? So go there first seeking to understand them. Now I'll give you an example. On social media, they probably have it in Columbus, Ohio as well. There's this thing where these young people are getting on Instagram and they're flashing the guns that they have, right? So somebody made an anonymous page called Get Your Kids New Orleans. And what this person does is he posts his pictures that he or she screenshotted from the Believers page, not from the Believers page, from these young brothers page and young sisters page where they're holding guns. And everybody's in the comment condemning them. Oh, that's why they're going to go to jail. That's why they're this. That's why they're that. So what I said one time, I wish I can have the opportunity to talk to them. So I posted that in the comment and I tagged the person. I didn't tag the person. I just said, I wish I had the opportunity to talk to this young brother and sister, not to try to teach them anything. I just want to hear why they are doing what they're doing. Do you know when I did that? Every time I did it, the young person with the guns tagged me and say, okay, Onk. Then they call you Onk if they feel you older than them. Hit me up. And then I reach out to him in a DM and I begin to start saying, hey man, tell me why you feel you need to be brandishing the guns. And I keep asking questions and let them talk and let them talk. And then I say, here's a perspective to consider. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? Or I say, man, hey, would I be, if you don't mind, can I share this brief clip with you from a man that changed my life? Just like that. My brother sent me something, Brother Kiam sent me something by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from a table talk where the minister was talking about his way with dealing with the hip hop artists. And the minister said that any of us who want to reflect him and want to engage with these artists and celebrities have to have his spirit and know his way. The minister said, I'm paraphrasing, he said, I do not freeze them. Meaning I don't judge them, because he said, if I judge them, I will freeze them, meaning I will put them in a standstill and they won't come closer to me where I can teach them. See, some of us have forgot, and some of us, even in the Nation of Islam, that we are beginning to allow the savagery of our people to forget, to cause us to forget that our people are sick and they stink because they have been sprayed by a skunk.
Right.
Some of us are forgetting that our people are,
Teach,
as
Brother Willie.
Elijah Muhammad responded and said, that they are being used as a tool and a slave. If you go and read the Nation of Islam, the lawsuit that we filed against the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law Center, go and listen to the very theme of the founding arguments of that case. The minister says that one of the reasons why we are filing this is because they're false labeling us as anti-Semitic is causing a problem, is interfering with us trying to heal our people who have been affected by, I forgot the language that they use, but we know, talking about by this white society.
Right.
I mean, it's repeated several times. That is a part of our theological belief. You don't find Jesus when he walks in the scripture where he condemning the people who possessed by Satan.
Right.
He understood that his battle was not against them. His battle was against that which is possessing them.
Right.
And we forget. I mean, check this out. We went to a juvenile correctional facility a couple of weeks ago. Brother Troy from Detroit was in the city. And while I was there, I told the young brothers that they can write me letters. I came to the mosque today. I got 2 letters from those brothers. You know, when you write on you know what a loose leaf sheet of paper is, right?
Right.
When you write on a loose leaf sheet of paper, the 3 little holes, you write with, when you start writing, you're writing with the holes will be on what side? The left. Both of those young brothers wrote me, and guess what? They wrote me on the back of the paper with the holes on the right. What is that an indicator of? It's an indicator of their educational level.
Right.
They don't know any better. And that's the thing that we can't forget. Remember what Jesus told Lazarus, not Lazarus. When Jesus got ready to call Lazarus out of the grave, Lazarus in the grave for 4 days. But what did Jesus say? Satan, loosen him. He ain't start condemning, even though they said he's been in the grave for 4 days and he stinks. Jesus never mentioned anything about his sin. All he said was loosen him. He knew that Lazarus was in that condition, not because of his own primarily, but of another power enslaving him and putting him in that grave state.
You're right. You're right. Amen.
Beautiful, brother. Beautiful. We have another question from Sister Andrea. How detrimental is it when only one side of the conflict is known? Some believe that they are keeping the peace by remaining silent.
It's very detrimental. So many people form judgments of people when they only have heard one side of the story.
Right.
I've seen people kind of position themselves and speak as they are an expert on what happened, and when they've only talked to one person. So how can you do that when you've only talked to one person? One of the things that has made us so successful, in addition to Allah's help with resolving a conflict, we get both sides of the story. So somebody remaining silent to keep the peace, you may keep that's really a delusion. You're not keeping the peace.
Right.
Because the
Right.
person that's remaining silent is still walking around fuming about what they feel somebody has done to them.
Right.
So we're not keeping the peace. We have to have both sides of the story. Look at the God that we serve. Go in the book of Exodus. Here, God is known as, one of his attributes is known as the all-knowing. Is that right?
That's right.
Where in the Quran, if a leaf falls from a tree, Allah says he knows about it. But in the book of Exodus, God says he heard the moaning and groaning of the children of Israel, but he said he still came down himself to see if it was all the way real.
Right. Right.
So that means that God came down to do further investigation to get all of the facts.
Right. Right.
Beautiful, brother.
Lesson for us. All praises due to Allah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have a question, and it's, what role can a neutral third-party mediator play in resolving violent conflicts?
Can play a huge role. Remember, Allah revealed to Prophet Muhammad, to believers, to get a third-party arbitrator, right? An objective person is some person who doesn't have a dog in his race, or a horse
dog in the
his
fight.
race.
Right.
So this is a person who is not drunken or influenced by the high emotions. This is a person who is removed. Like you play chess?
Yes.
You ever notice when you play chess, when you're not playing and you sitting on the side, you can see a lot of good moves the person should have made? Well, that's what a mediator sees. A mediator sees what they don't see. And the mediator has the advantage is that the mediator has been able to hear the perspective and story from both sides. And if he's a good mediator, or she's a good mediator, they can help to bridge peace. We see what is a negative mediator. We see what's going on with America. Remember the Honorable Minister Lord Farrakhan said that America, if they want to resolve what's taking place in the Middle East, they have to be an honest peace broker. And they're not that.
All right. We got Brother Patrick. Brother Patrick, you ready? I'm bringing you on. Here we go.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Salam, Brother Pat.
Once again, I want to let you know I got your book on how to study. I shared that with you with the brothers in Atlanta. But from what I'm understanding, the title of what you got going on, I asked the question, but I think I came up with the answer. This can help us in dealing with religious division. Do you think your conflict resolution can help solve the religious gap that goes on among us, particularly in-house among American blacks, and then with our extended family of our brothers and sisters who are the Africans, the Haitians and the Arabs and so on and so on?
Yeah,
good question.
When you see the original picture of the Muhammad Speaks, there was the hands of a brother from America reaching over, holding hands to another brother from the East, right?
That's right. That's right.
And remember, I think you mentioned it, Brother Donell, earlier. We always see the hands holding, but have we ever asked the question in that drawing, who is the person that will be responsible for that? And that's the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who he even told the Honorable Minister Lord Farrakhan to find a way to unite with the Muslim world.
Right.
And what did the minister do? Some of the things that he did. He heard some of their criticisms about us. Right?
Right.
And in some of their criticisms about us, he began to start developing us as a nation, not just to satisfy them, but this was true if we wanted to be considered to be Muslims as well. He began to start strengthening the nation, beginning to teach us about Prophet Muhammad and loving Prophet Muhammad, to love the Quran, to engage in Salat, right?
Right.
And then you quick, my brother. And then in addition to that, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan went to Mecca to sit down with the scholars and explain to them what is this phenomenon known as the Nation of Islam.
Right.
So he didn't leave it to the media for the media to tell our brothers and sisters in the East about us. He went over there and asked the questions. He went over there and explained why we believe that Allah appeared in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad. He did something that's essential to resolving conflict, is to have a conversation.
It all begins with a conversation. Yes,
that's it.
All right, Brother Patrick, did you have any follow-up questions that you wanted to ask?
Oh no, sir. The brother just helped me to be able to help Brother Donell here, because we have a diverse Muslim community here. We have a large Somalia community here. We have a large African community here, Muslim community here, and they turn their nose up at us, from you know what I'm saying, from my perspective, you know. So I want to be able to break those barriers, because keep it real with you, I don't care for them. But I know that's not the spirit of Young Blue Farrakhan, you know, because our breast has been expanded as a nation. So I need to learn how to be able to do what you just said, start studying more, and to study why the Nation of Islam is what it is.
Remember this, brother. Everybody around the world has been given a false narrative about the black man and woman in America.
Right, that's a fact.
So you see the brothers, when you say from Somalia, what have they been taught about us? They look at us like we're lazy. Right. And many of them don't understand the depth of the wound of slavery that our people suffer from. So sometimes it's just, when they have events, just go over there, not to proselytize, just to build relationships. And then the opportunity will present itself where we can begin to start explaining some things to them.
For example,
all right,
the brothers, I have a rental car agency, and many of the Somalian brothers come in, they'll give you the greeting if they know that you're Muslim. And then they ask the question, why are not more black people in business and this and that and the other? And they talk about Islam and why aren't more black people involved in Islam in America. Then I ask a simple question. Well, let me ask you, my brother, do you speak Arabic or your mother tongue? Yes. Do you know something of the history of your people? Yes. Do you own and still got family members in your country? Yes. Well, guess what, young man? We don't speak any of our mother tongue. In fact, we don't even believe we have a mother tongue. We don't know anything of our culture. We don't speak anything other than English. Don't speak that well. And we have been made to hate ourselves. And I know for a fact, young brother, because I've talked with some of your people, that when they come over here, a part of the conversation to them is to stay away from us. So that's why you think we're lazy. That's why you think we don't care to do anything. So that's why Elijah Muhammad had to proceed the way he did. That's why the Honorable Minister Farrakhan had to proceed the way he did, because he was dealing with a people who were totally robbed of the knowledge of Allah, totally robbed of the language of Arabic, Aramaic, and Hebrew. And then when you hit them with that, and it got to be a long, drawn-out conversation. But once you hit them with that, there's no comeback for that other than, oh, I didn't know. And then you can start doing what Brother Willie just said, start building from there.
Yes, sir.
As opposed to just telling them, oh, you ain't nobody either. You with that white man, you believe in a mystery God. God's a man, nigga. Don't you know that?
Yeah.
Like,
follow the example of the minister.
Right. We have
follow the example. No, go ahead. That's good.
Yes, sir. We have another question from not another question, but a question from Brother Marcel. I'll bring him right on. Assalamu alaikum. Go ahead, brother. And you
come off of mute. Come off of mute.
There you go.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Willie.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Marcel.
It's an honor and a pleasure, my brother.
Honor is
Glad you,
mine, my brother.
glad you could join us here in the wonderful city of Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. When I was in the penitentiary and was engaged in conflict resolution, and the minister gave us the instructions and the guidance in the Million Man March about atonement and reconciliation, the first 4 steps point out the wrong. We don't have that one at all. Matter of
At
fact,
all.
we love pointing out the wrong. But that second step, acknowledge the wrong. My brother, my question is, what is it in us, particularly as a people, when you're trying to resolve conflict between two? What is it in us that refuses or is very adamant about that second step, not acknowledging the wrong, and they know they wrong? What is it in us that is hindering us from that step, my brother?
It's several things. I think I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say one time, remember our nature is righteous. So we always want to be right. Right? That's one thing, right? But some of us, sometimes our ego prevents us from acknowledging when we're wrong, because we begin to start thinking that if I admit that I was wrong, then that means that I'm less of a man, right?
Right,
And
right,
some
right.
of us have grew up in home environments where most of our memories is of our childhood is filled with us getting beatings every time we were found wrong doing something wrong.
Right.
Think about when we were sitting and our parents teaching us about addition. If Johnny has 3 apples and Sally has 2, how many apples do they have together? 8. Damn it. Wow. So we subconsciously, and we know with the thing of Dianetics, we begin to start thinking about, if I say I'm wrong, then there's a consequence.
Right.
So sometimes it's that ego that I don't want to be wrong. And some of us, our perspective is so off that we don't think that we're wrong. And sometimes, because of the person who we have wronged may have done something to us, or we looked at them in a certain way, it's hard for us to hear from them that we did them something wrong. So this is where a third party would be good to come in, somebody who's objective. Like, hey, brother, I don't even know you. I don't even know you, but I've heard your side and I've heard her side, and you're wrong. But it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It actually gives you an opportunity to grow, to be a better person.
Right. Yeah, that consequence is a big thing. Yeah, you have habitually think that if I admit that I'm wrong, I deserve to suffer a consequence.
Did you have any follow-up questions, Brother Marcel?
No, sir, brother. That was a beautiful response, and thank you for that insight, Soldier.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. I guess I'll ask a question. How can addressing the root cause, let me ask this question first. What are some other nonviolent conflict resolution ways to resolve conflict?
Brother Steve, when we first got started, because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, get between the gangs and the guns, we thought that was the number one source of conflict. But we were quick to find out that our community is riddled with conflict.
Right.
We've done mediation between lawyers and businessmen, business owners. Guess what some of our worst conflict mediations have been? Between community activists.
Wow.
Who say that they love Black people, but ready to fight and kill each other.
Right.
So the biggest thing as it relates to conflict, man, is having the conversation. And that's what we're not doing. That was one of the reasons the COINTELPRO was so successful in pitting Black organizations against Black organizations. They already would listen in and hear the dislike for one another. But when something would take place, instead of them picking the phone up and calling their brother, they would just go off, right? Just what was heard. Look at how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan handled the situation in Miami when they were saying that there were threats on the life of Yahweh ben Yahweh from the Nation of Islam, or vice versa on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. What did the minister do? He went to Miami and had a meeting with Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Sure did.
You know, and then brought him on, right? Look at how the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan handled that situation when they said, Minister Farrakhan, about Jesse Jackson just denounced you. They wanted the minister to pounce on him. The minister said, whatever I have to say for my brother, I'll have that conversation with him. And that's the thing that we're not doing enough.
Right.
Picking up the phone. When you look at that recent hip hop beef between these rappers, they know each other.
Right.
Why is your first response, I got to go respond on the internet? Why you can't pick up the phone and ask your brother, man, what is this really about?
Right. Or did you even say it at all?
And did you even say it at all?
And you know, one of the big, as far as our history is concerned, is with Wharf Dean Muhammad.
Yeah.
You know, a situation, a conflict resolution that, you know, in many countries, it would have led to bloodshed.
The bloodshed.
Yes, sir.
And how the minister handled it. And, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan learned a lot from that history with Malcolm X.
Right.
And the Nation of Islam.
Right.
He learned a lot about being careful about what we speak in such environments like that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and from that, we have been able to navigate a lot of stuff.
And without shedding a drop of blood.
Without shedding a drop of blood. And with the principle that Brother Donell also said, first find out if they said it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So what role, and this I think is a big question now, is what role does the social media play in conflicts and resolving conflicts?
Man, Allah says in the Holy Quran that Satan excites our vain desires. Social media does that. You have people who will say something before, prior to social media, where they couldn't even get their two pets in their house to come and say, just listen. The dog wouldn't even come and put the head to the side. Now they can go online and say something and they get 50 people that hit like, or they go live and they get 50 people that's listening to them and egging them on. So what that be, and then the more savage it is, the more ignorant it is, the more views you get.
Right.
So what that does is it only encourages a sick behavior and improper ways of handling situations.
Right.
So what they're seeing in schools, I work in the school system, most of the conflicts between these youngsters start on social media.
Right.
How they interpreted something, and they never think about, yo, let's have a conversation to find out. So the vain desires and this jockeying for attention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's right. That's exactly what happened right out in front of my house. Was somebody said something to somebody else on Facebook, and then they pull up on the same street together, and instead of even finding out, did you say that? Was this your post? Was it a troll? Was it a robot? Was it you? I didn't even look at it. What? How dare you? I got my peace. I'll you know.
And that, and think about the science of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and the wisdom that he kept guns out of our hands.
Right.
Because he knew that we haven't the emotional intelligence, nor the conflict resolution skills, nor the love to resolve a conflict without a pistol. Now you have these young brothers and they got these guns and they have this false idea of manhood, no conflict resolution skills. We live in an environment where that type of stuff is applauded, and in the whole industry is the music that they listen to and the video games that they're playing is all about shoot 'em up.
Right. Right.
And for example, both of you all are from Columbus, right? Ohio, right?
Yes,
Dayton.
sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm from New Orleans. I've never been to where you are from. I don't know if you've been to New Orleans yet. Have you ever heard this? What have we heard growing up? That if somebody hit you, if somebody do you something, you pick something up and bat and hit them back, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, how is it
that my upbringing?
That's my upbringing, Brother Stephen.
Yes, sir. Same
now,
here.
How is it we miles and miles away? Ages are different, but all of us have been taught that same thing. That's our first training in conflict resolution, and it's going to stick even more because oftentimes it comes from out of the lips of people who we love, our mothers or our fathers.
Right.
So it's no coincidence that we see people are acting first and not even thinking till they're in prison about what they did.
Right.
So that's why I say our communities need to get this training and then begin every so many months, get people to come out, go to churches, go whatever, and begin to start teaching people conflict resolution.
Right.
Man.
That's the only way to catch on, as opposed to trying to put all that burden on one person or one people. Yeah.
Beautiful, Brother Willie. Man, we have gotten a lot up out of you today on this conflict resolution.
Crazy.
And we got to bring you back again and again and again.
Yes, let me know, my brother.
Yes, sir.
So before we go, I'm gonna put the picture up of your book one more time because
please do.
I
gotta get it.
Yes, let me put the picture.
Did Brother Patrick mention another book that you wrote too? There are 2 books out there.
I wrote my best-selling book is The Understanding Master Farrakhan Muhammad.
Okay.
And I have some books, I call them relationship books. I have some children books. I have some books, 6 principles of dealing of how to handle dark times, when the pressures of life kick in and all of that type of stuff.
Okay.
But this is a book that I think what I'm proud about this book is that we have something in writing from a believer and of the Most High Elijah Muhammad and follower making the argument to say you all can't write this man out of history, black or white.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, that's it from our studio audience, Brother Student Minister, as far as questions are concerned.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Well, Brother Willie, as we get ready to wind down, we're at the top of the hour. In fact, we're a couple of minutes past, but we control this. What would be your closing closing comments and advice for all in the listening audience and for those of us who have accepted positions or was put in positions to go out following the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as you have so clearly stated today? What advice and closing comments do you have for all of us in the listening audience, whether you hold a position or not? What is the responsibility of every Black person, regardless to your religion, regardless to your philosophy? What is our responsibility to one another?
I will say this. When we look at the story of Noah and the building of the ark, and from the Nation of Islam theological perspective, we believe that that's a symbolic story. But let's look at that story. They said that he brought all of these animals on the boat, and they were going to be a part of rebuilding civilization after the flood waters resided. What that means is that every animal on that boat played a role in rebuilding society. So my closing words to all of those who are listening in the Nation of Islam, not in the Nation of Islam, all of us have a role to play. And what we have to do is some of us have to get out of people's way and stop trying to make everybody's contribution the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You see, everybody's contribution is not the same. And I think that there is great wisdom in that history that Master Farrakhan Muhammad left us. Think about it. In 76 trillion years, out of all of the history that have taken place, we can count on hand the amount of history Master Farrakhan Muhammad left us to study in 76 trillion years. So what's in that story about the man departing the moon from the earth? He was really frustrated because he was trying to get everybody to speak the same way, the same dialect.
Yes, sir.
And many of us are guilty of that. We are trying to get everybody to contribute the same way in this process of resurrecting our people.
Yes, sir.
We should be more concerned with the outcome than rather the process.
Yes, sir.
Especially if the process doesn't conflict with what somebody else is doing. So all of us have a way. What is your way who are on here? This TV show is a way, because it's one more tool to help us to get our story out.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
To get out what you all are doing. You all are making a contribution. When the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said when he first became registered in New York, and he cried in front of the FOI class and said, I'm going to take this teacher to every nook and cranny. This is a part of his fulfillment and carrying out his word.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like when you see the data on YouTube, who's watching this show?
Mhm.
And who are we talking about on here? Minister Farrakhan. We
Right.
all have ways to contribute.
Yes, sir.
Stop suffering from paralysis by analysis and get up there and do something.
So you mean to tell me I ain't got to make everybody wear a bow tie, shave their head bald?
Yep.
Oh,
Exactly.
man. I thought that was the only way to get this done, man.
No,
Jeez.
sir. No, sir.
Thank you for helping me, man. Wow.
Yes, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Brother Willie.
Thank
All
you.
right. We'll go ahead and close it on out. And
Yes.
we want to, I'll go ahead and do it proper. And we want to thank everyone for watching. And may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. Come back next week. Same channel, same time. And this is an interactive program. We would love for you to come on and ask your questions or write your questions in the chat, and we'll ask them to our guests. With that, may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.